Gents and lady gents, welcome to the show. We are on episode 14 now. We do have a packed show for you today. We're going to check out some trends we've noticed for the 2024 NFL season. We are going to talk about games we're excited about for week 10. Also talk about our fantasy heroes and zeros for week 9. And then we're going to close out this episode with a little draft that, came to me because Zoltowski's been on vacation for a little while. They've been down in Disney. And the draft for this week is going to be our dream travel destinations.
I promise I won't say Disney.
Yeah. You can't. These are like places we haven't been, kind of.
Yeah.
So we are recording this a day late. We're recording this on Tuesday, November 5th, because, boys, today's a huge day for America. I don't know if you know that. It's the NFL trade deadline. I mean, it's a huge day. And we did have a lot of movement today at the trade deadline. I'm just going to quickly run through some trades that happened. First, I'm going to talk about the defensive trades. San Francisco received defensive tackle Khalil Davis from the Houston Texans for a 2026 7th-round pick. Baltimore received Tre'Davious White and a 2027 7th-round pick from the Rams for a 2026 7th-round pick. Now, that's a pretty big trade for the Rams or for the Baltimore defense there. Pittsburgh received some edge depth, getting Preston Smith from the Green Bay Packers for a 2025 7th-round pick. Washington Commanders got Marshawn Lattimore in a 2025 5th from New Orleans for a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th-round pick in 2025. Now for the offensive trades, and then we'll get into our inner podcast trade at the end here, but Pittsburgh did get some wide receiver help today. They got wide receiver Mike Williams from the Jets for a 2025 5th-round pick. Dallas also got some receiver help. They received wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 7th-round pick from Carolina for a 2025 4th-round pick from the Cowboys. Cincinnati received some running back depth with Khalil Herbert from Chicago for a 2025 7th-round pick. And then Minnesota unfortunately lost Christian Darrisaw to an ACL injury, which he has had successful surgery, I read. But they did go out and get some offensive tackle help there with Cam Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars and a 7th-round pick for a 5th-round pick in 2026. So some big moves, some minor moves, a lot of moves helping to fill injuries there with Khalil Herbert and Cam Robinson. And boys, we do have an inner podcast trade. The Detroit Lions are getting Zadarius Smith from the Cleveland Browns and a 2026 7th-round pick for a 2025 5th and 6th-round pick. So, I hate to see Zadarius go, but I am glad he's going to be on a team that could have some Super Bowl implications going forward. I mean, the Lions are hot right now, and the Browns are going nowhere, it seems like. So Zadarius being around, 30, 31, it's good to see him, get on a roster where he can shine and, really fill a big hole for Detroit there. Boys, are you surprised that anyone did not get traded, or, are you seeing any big moves from these trades today going forward?
I mean, obviously the one that stands out most to me, right, division rivals and such. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, he was the only bright side on the Saints team there. We've looked at the stats before. I mean, every receiver that he covers, they're locked down, and he's been doing this for years. But now to not only go to Washington, but a hot Washington team. That offense is clicking. Everything's going with them. I think they're 7-2 in the division. I mean, that team has very, very high implications, even though the Eagles are doing very well, and it seems like they're finally clicking. That team was scary already, but now they actually have a true number one corner to shut down anyone. I mean, that's for us in the division. It's going to be a big problem. I mean, you got to think he's going to be on Green or Brown. He's going to be on Smith. I mean, we played him already in New Orleans. Yeah, we won, but at the same time, the receivers didn't really do much when he covered. So I think that relieves a lot of their issues, which they didn't have many on defense, but now they can kind of play scheme to let Marshawn just kind of have one side of the field and let him do him, and then kind of, overload the other side. Not only to do that, safety and cornerback wise, DB wise, but then allows them really to blitz a little bit more with the linebackers and get a little bit more pressure from the edges and such. So I hate it. Love to see Marshawn go to someone that, a team that has really good high implications, young team, stout team. I just hate the fact that he went to our division. But I mean, it's going to be he's going to be covering CD twice a year. He's going to be covering Neighbors twice a year, Brown twice a year. So I mean, he's got his work cut out for him for sure. And he is aging, but I mean, he's done incredibly well ever since he stepped into the league. So that's my biggest. I saw that and I was like, great, cool. I was leaving work today. I got that notification. I was like, yep, that's the one team I didn't want him to go to. So that's my biggest take. And then, shocks that we didn't see. Obviously, we talked about this earlier on the podcast several times. Did Myles Garrett, would it be the right thing? Kind of like what you guys did with Smith. Do you treat him well? Do you send him to a contender? Or do you sit and ride with them and then hopefully next year, in a couple of years, you turn around? But it's kind of one of the situations where the guy is just so good. He's such a nice guy that you want him to at least get one ring, but he is also getting older. We know that the durability on some of those DNs are somewhat limited depending on injuries. And, he's always constantly double, triple team. So, it definitely takes a toll on him. So that's one of the things that I kind of was like, I could see going either way. Maybe he goes to San Fran. Obviously, they picked up their guy, but it would have been nice to kind of see him go to a contender to kind of give him that one shot. Kind of like what you guys did with LeBron. Went to South Beach, got his rings, and then came back. So that's what I was kind of hoping for that too. But that's my take on that. It was very, very good trade deadline. A lot of things popped off, so it's good.
Yeah, the Marshawn Lattimore trade. I mean, it's been really fun watching him versus Mike Evans the past what almost seems to be a decade. I think they've both been in the league about 7 years. So
yeah.
When Marshawn Lattimore plays, it's fun to watch him just because he's physical. He's a physical corner. And he really gets in the head of his opponents. So it almost seems like the Washington Commanders made this trade to combat CD and to combat AJ Brown because they're both physical receivers. So it's going to be interesting to see, how he plays against those receivers in division games going forward. So I'll ask you what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree. Well, with both you guys now on that, that's a great pickup for Washington. Defense was the one thing that everyone's talked about that they need to strengthen up a little bit. And, because that offense is hot. Talk about that a little bit later. But that team really now in a pretty strong division too, with the Eagles and the Cowboys. Don't really count the Giants, but, they're still putting the pieces together with Danny Dimes over there. But that'll be good to see how much more competitive they can get now that they have a lockdown corner.
Yeah, and the trade for offensively, I think that's going to make some impact almost immediately. Pittsburgh getting Mike Williams is huge. They have Calvin Austin, who's been stepping up. He's going to continue to play that slot role, but they haven't really had the other big guy opposite of George Pickens. And, Fish, I was going to leave this for my trend I was going to talk about, but you were right. I was wrong about the whole, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson thing. He's been balling out for Pittsburgh. It's going to be nice to see. Well, going to be nice. Actually, I don't even care. We're not going to the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Pittsburgh Steelers continue to play. I might look and see what a futures bet looks like on them winning the bowl.
It's definitely a big play, right? Mike Williams, a massive receiver, did well with the Chargers. The biggest thing with that is, and there's a very, very high risk, and I know that you two know this, and people that know fantasy football also know this, the injuries, the injury bug. He can pop off for 4 catches, 150 yards, and 2 touchdowns, but then could be out with turf toe for the next 6 weeks. So for Pittsburgh, yes, on paper, it is an incredible thing. Like you said, no, they can line somebody up, another big body on the other side of Pickens. So now Pickens kind of has a little bit more room to kind of do what he needs to do, only one-on-one coverage, because now they're going to have to guard Mike Williams. But with that being said, though, injuries could be an issue, and we know we've seen it. We have to look up and see how many full seasons he's completed, but I don't think it's been that many. It's just him. He'll get his, especially with Russell playing incredibly well, rotating and throwing the ball to everyone, getting the team. It looks like a different team from what Justin Fields was doing. Like, they were doing well, but now they actually have a throwing threat. and is doing well throwing. Almost kind of looks like back when he was playing with Seattle. But Mike Williams on the other side of the ball, incredible on stats, on paper, should be a no-brainer. But that injury, that hamstring, the ankles, whatever it may be, they got to find a way to keep him healthy, because if he goes out, then they're down in the same position that they just were. But again, on paper, makes total sense. So
yeah, he was out all year but 3 weeks last week with the ACL tear. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but when he got traded today, Aaron Rodgers was actually on the Pat McAfee show, and Pat McAfee broke the news to Aaron Rodgers. And Rodgers his response was a little interesting. He basically talked about Mike being a quiet guy, kind of keeps to himself. And he was talking about how he didn't use the word struggle to bounce back from the ACL tear, but he said he thinks he struggled mentally coming back from the ACL tear. So I think that's why he wasn't as productive in New York. But, the biggest thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers is their head coach, Mike Tomlin. He gets the most out of his players, no matter who they are. Yeah. I think Tomlin is going to be able to remind Mike Williams he's Mike Williams. He's going to probably show him some old tape of him playing well. Mike Williams is going to be like, oh yeah, I'm that guy. I can continue to be that guy and be the number 2 option for Pittsburgh going forward.
100%. I do want to say one other thing, another thing that kind of doesn't really scream me, but Dallas receiving Jonathan Mingo. I know he's a second-round pick. He hasn't really had that much playing time with the team. I think he was, on the Panthers. Everybody knows about the Panthers story, right? Anybody that goes there, career's dead. He gets traded to Dallas, right? Is this forecasting? We already know, we'll talk about this later. We already know that Dak's going to be out week to week, at least, or he at the IR, I think, he'll be out 4 weeks.
Yep.
Now, CD picked up an injury as well. His, it's not the AC joint, but it's his shoulder. He's going to be week to week. Is this forecasting that they're anticipating CD to be out for a couple weeks and they need another receiver to step in? Now, we haven't seen Mingo's full potential, but I mean, he's showing flashes in the pans of doing good things with the Midyear quarterback. So then again, he's got Cooper Rush throwing to him for the next 4 weeks. So we don't really know, but it is something to kind of keep an eye on, especially for those of us that are in the same division. That is CD going to miss time? Are they kind of gearing up to forecast and not risk it, especially with how their season's kind of turning around? It's just something to kind of watch and look into as the weeks progress. So just want to say that.
I'm reading on here on Sleeper, there is some optimism that he will be able to play week to week. So there's optimism CD Lamb plays week 10. Now, like you said, I'm not sure if they're going to rush him back, especially against Philly. That is a division game, but it seems like the Cowboys are all but out of it right now. So they might as well just make sure he can safely finish the season out.
Mm.
Some names I'm surprised that didn't get moved. I kept waiting for more New Orleans Saints to get sold today, especially just because they fired their coach. I was waiting on, Alvin Kamara's name to pop up. I thought maybe he would get sent out of New Orleans, but I guess they're going to keep him around. So that was the big surprise I had that did not get traded today. You guys have any other names like that?
No, outside of Myles Garrett, I mean, I think everybody made the right moves. I don't think any massive names that popped up. I mean, it was with McCaffrey coming back. I mean, he kind of brought up the Kamara thing. I mean, Kamara would have done incredibly well at San Fran, but, they're plagued with injuries, but McCaffrey is coming back, so there really wasn't a need for him there. So and it seems like KC also found their running back in Kareem Hunt again, so it looks like he's rejuvenated there. So there isn't too many massive names that I could think of that have been like, oh yeah, I'm surprised he didn't get traded outside of Garrett. So
yeah, it's crazy the Browns didn't bring Kareem back. Knowing Chubb's injury, and it's just wild to me.
It's just a bad call right there. But no, nothing really stood out to me. Always heard the rumors about Max Crosby, but did not expect to see his name at all. Just with how vocal he's been about not wanting to get traded from Vegas, which honestly surprises me with how that team's going. They're playing the quarterback roulette. They got rid of Devontae to the Jets a couple weeks ago. Happy that Detroit picked up an edge rusher, someone who's good. I know they say his production's been down, but we've talked about this before. Coaching and just the locker room has a lot to do with how guys can perform. And I feel like he's going to come fit into Detroit, and, he's going to be a part of a team that probably has a different attitude than the Browns do, and probably see him do better things than he has been doing.
Sure.
Yeah, he'll play well up there. And this is his third NFC North team as well. So he's played for the Packers and the Vikings previously. So he's going to be very familiar with the rivalry up there. All right. So for week 9, we normally do some surprises, a fantasy hero, a fantasy zero. And then recently we've been getting away from the concerns just because, you see league trends going on. And we have decided to go away from that concern route just because you don't really get concerned with things going forward. You kind of know who teams are at the end of the day. So what we're going to do first, we're going to cover our fantasy heroes and our fantasy zeros, and then we're going to get into our league trends. So Fish, since we've already talked about the Cowboys a little bit, why don't you go ahead and start with your fantasy hero?
Yeah, my fantasy hero, although as Nutter said, the Cowboys, my guy is Rico Dowdle. The whole team is in absolute shambles, and I talk about this week to week because it brings us a little smile on my face when I talk about how bad they are. But Dowdle has done very, very well. I know they brought up Dalvin Cook, an aging Dalvin Cook. Zeke did not travel with the team for disciplinary reasons that they haven't really stated at all. But I mean, we already know he's only averaging
wild, by the way,
a yard per carry, so he's out. Dalvin Cook is out. Dowdle seems like the only bright point outside of CeeDee Lamb when him and Dak are in sync. But when Dak's not in sync, they're going to look towards a running back that runs angrily. Dowdle, 12 attempts on 75 yards, caught 5 of 6 receptions for 32 yards and a touchdown. By the way, it was a crazy touchdown. He bobbled it, landed on his back, and ended up, which is great composure in the moment. Excellent. I mean, there's a little bit of life there, but overall, fantasy-wise, he did very, very well. I think he had 19 plus points in most standard leagues with points per reception as well. So the team is in turmoil, but it is good to see at least a lead running back in that team. I know that they've tried multiple different running backs to see if anything can click. When Rico does play, it seems like he does get the most for his carries as long as he's getting that volume. Obviously, 12 attempts is not the 25, 30 attempts that Derrick Henry gets, but popping off for 75 yards and then also being a good receiving back as well, which he's kind of been Dak's safety blanket when CD is covered. Obviously, CD's been battling with injuries, but we did watch the game. We did look at the check downs. He always went to Dowdle, especially in the end zone with that crazy catch as well. He was not afraid to throw it through the middle on that quick little cross there. But he's got to be my fantasy hero this week on a team that just doesn't seem to perform well defensive-wise, offensive-wise, outside of CeeDee Lamb. Dowdle, it just seems like the brightest star as of right now. And I would keep leaning on him because it seems like the only way they can get any type of offense generation is through Dowdle. So that's my fantasy hero. He's done well so far, especially with the games that he's played.
Yeah, when you talk about Dak, he's going to miss some time. Cooper Rush is going to be at the helm. He's going to probably rely on that safety valve, Rico Dowdle, Ferguson as well, just because, he's not going to have time to go through his progressions. He's probably going to get scared in the pocket a little bit. And those safety valves that are built into Mike McCarthy's offense, he's probably really going to shine in the receiving game there.
I'm hoping so. As a fantasy manager, I'm definitely hoping so. I'm starting him.
Yeah, I would definitely start him going forward because there's no other running back there.
No one.
Zoltowski. How about your fantasy hero, pal?
Yeah, so my fantasy hero this week is Amon-Ra St. Brown. So he went 7 for 7, 56 yards, and 1 touchdown, which extended his touchdown streak to 6 games in a row. And did some math, looked up some more numbers too. He's 34 for 35 over the last 6 games and has caught, in the last 30 targets, he has caught every single one of them. So he's 30 for 30 on his last 30 targets, which is just an insane stat. And he caught that TD.
Yeah, that's incredible. I had no idea.
I mean, your guys' efficiency between Goff, essentially having a perfect game, and then Amon-Ra just catching everything is absurd. It
It's
really
dude,
is.
it's that offense. I've never seen this offense, any offense really in the NFL click like the Lions have. I mean, I think it was 4 weeks in a row. I think it was after the perfect game. They had more offensive touchdowns than they did incompletions, like Goff did incompletions, which is just an insane stat. And he catches that touchdown and then does a freaking headstand as a celebration. Like, I mean, yeah, his yardage is low, but I mean, you throw the ball his way, he's catching it.
Yeah, that's going around the league right now. That headstand celebration.
I think someone in college did it. Is what he said.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I mean, if he can keep that up, he can do as many headstands as he wants as long as he doesn't get hurt. But
don't hurt your neck, Amon-Ra.
Yeah. Dude just been playing really well. The whole team has, but he's my fantasy hero this week.
Yeah, definitely a great pick there. My fantasy hero for this week, I'm going to be a bad Browns fan this week. I'm going to be talking a lot about the Bengals, and my fantasy hero for week 9 is going to be Joe Burrow himself. Joe Burrow threw 39 times, completed 27 passes. The yards were a little low for how many passes he threw. He threw for 251 yards, ran 3 times for 11 yards. He had 5 touchdowns and 1 incompletion. But I want to talk about those 5 touchdowns real quick. They did not go to, Jamar Chase. They obviously did not go to T. Higgins because he was hurt. They went to, some random group of receiving options that you wouldn't really expect to get touchdowns. Gesicki caught 2 of them. Chase Brown caught 1. Yoshavash caught 1. And then Drew Sample caught 1 as well. So pretty interesting to see, Joe Burrow is just still playing out of his mind. And it looks like he's going to try and make it happen any way he can. The Bengals did win that game 41-24. Yeah, they beat the Vegas Raiders. So good game by them. Good outing. We're going to talk more about Joe Burrow when we get into my week preview game. But yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow playing great. Some could say MVP caliber season if the Bengals really do turn it around. So great to see him playing well, especially when the Browns are not even in the conversation. But
Jared Goff for MVP.
True,
honestly,
could be.
Hurts is up there too. Last 4 weeks, he's playing insane. So
Burrow, Allen, Lamar, Goff, Hurts.
A lot of good quarterback play.
A lot of good quarterback play this year.
Honestly, Derrick Henry and Saquon's up there too. To be honest,
yeah.
That
Saquon hurdle, man. Oh my God,
might have been the greatest I've ever seen.
Most insane. It looked like he was playing dodgeball in a rec gym out there.
Yeah.
Just
in the Kelly Greens too.
The only way it would have been better is if he did it over that cornerback for Dallas that's been talking shit. If he did it over him, then again he's like 5'2". So it was
Trayvon Diggs. Yeah.
No, the other guy, the other corner, or the safety. I don't know. I have to look it up and I'll let you guys know. But he's been running his mouth on everyone and they've been getting their asses beat. I saw a clip the other day. It was him talking shit to some receiver, and then it was, I think, 30 seconds of him just getting blown by and just people just scoring touchdowns on him. So I love the internet sometimes. It's incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome. But quickly here, I'm going to talk about my fantasy zero just because it's in division with the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah Likely, he was on the field for only 30% of the snaps. Now, apparently he does have a lingering hamstring injury that I did not know about before that game, the last game. The Ravens did put up 41 points against the Denver Broncos, who only put up 10 points. He only had 1 target that game, 0 receptions, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 points. So not really what you want to see out of Isaiah Likely, especially with how high he started the year. I know a lot of folks, you only roster 1 tight end. Tight ends are such a roll of the dice anyway. You just keep the guy in that you have in, and you don't really think about the tight end position too much in fantasy football. But yeah, it's tough to see the team he plays for put up 41 points. Maybe you didn't watch the game, you just see the box score and you're like, oh man, Isaiah Likely must have gone for at least 70 yards and maybe a touchdown. Nope, didn't go for anything. So pretty tough to see that. But Fish, you also have a pass catcher for your fantasy zero. Why don't you talk about it?
I do. This guy has had a lot of hype. He's been very vocal on social media saying, "Hey, Tua's back. Expect me to get one." He's been hyping his quarterback up like any great receiver should, and I'd love to see that. But the production the last 2 weeks has just not been there when Tua's played. This past week he went 4 for 5. By the way, it's Tyreek Hill. He's gone 4 for 5 with 80 yards, and then last week he had 6 receptions for 72. For that type of caliber of a player, and a chain has been playing incredibly. So they've been leaning a lot more on chain, which is fantastic. Again, great pass catching back. It seems like the whole team plays a lot better when Tua is in. I think Waddle definitely caught a touchdown as well, which is great for him. So again, they're also spreading the ball around, which is great for the Dolphins in general and Dolphins fans. It means that they're getting a little bit more momentum. They're not so Tyreek focused or a chain focused, but it's been killing me because again, I know we talked about this about 4 or 5 episodes ago. Where you draft him, especially for the speedster, he's got great catchability, especially when he does catch on a quick slant. I mean, he could tear off for 20, 30 yards in half a second. But where we draft him, it's almost one of those situations where you can't really just bench him, right? So you got to just sit there and just hope that he catches that touchdown or gets multiple, receptions. It seems like the receptions are there. Maybe if he had about 8 or 9, that obviously that'd be lovely. That yardage would go up to probably about 100. But just based off of where we draft him, the usage so far, and a lot of hype with having Tua back, it's just tough. It's a tough pill to swallow to constantly. We got a thing within our group, check fantasy, set the lineups, and then wait till halftime to see if anything pops up. I know Bosom likes to go on about, I haven't got a notification yet.
Right.
It's a great thing, but I know when we check and we're like, oh, cool, there's the TV, great, all the boys are here. Dolphins are up by 24, awesome. Tyreek must have popped off, and he's got 30 yards. So it's definitely just a tough pill to swallow, especially as a fantasy manager, because you can't really bench him. You got to just stick him in there and just hope that he gets what's coming to him.
Right.
With a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. So it's been a little bit of an underwhelming season, obviously, with Tua being injured now for the 4 weeks. It's tough as well, but you kind of figured hopefully maybe this week they can get kind of back on the same track. But it's been a weird season so far with a lot of quarterbacks not really clicking with their number one. Again, good to see that Jalen Waddle got his production. A chain's been an incredible pickup as long as he can stay healthy as well. But it's just upsetting to see Hill not underperform, but fantasy-wise and stat-wise, underperforming. So that's my fantasy zero this week. It's Tyreek. It's just a tough pill to swallow.
So I know what you guys are thinking. If A-Chan had such a big week, why is he not a fantasy hero? It's because he has been a couple times before. We're just trying to spread it out a little bit. But
spread the love.
Yeah, Fish, that's a great point about Tyreek, especially where you drafted him. There was a lot of hype about him in the first 2 seasons, or I'm sorry, the last 2 seasons, 2022, 2023, both with Miami. He's had over 1,700 yards in both of those seasons. There was a lot of hype before the year, like, is Tyreek going to be the first 2,000-yard receiver? He was only 201 yards off of that last year, so really disappointing to see him only have 446 yards on the year. Even when Tua's been in, he hasn't really played well. So, really disappointing. So you're right there, right on. I agree with you.
You tell me you appreciate it. I get it.
I do.
You're
appreciate
wrong.
I appreciate you.
You're wrong, and then you appreciate me. I mean, hey, just roll out the red carpet tomorrow. That's great.
I think you just appreciate
Fish
that you're
Flowers
wrong.
Podcast.
Mm.
So, Tasky, you also have a pass catcher.
Yeah. So the Rams struggled. Losing Puka and Cooper Kupp early in the season. They both finally came back, looked real good, won a solid game, then Puka comes back second game and gets ejected, goes 1 for 4 for 11 yards for throwing a punch. So he's my fantasy zero because one, he's one of the 2 solid targets on the team. We saw what that team did without them. I mean, he's got to stay calm. I know it's get high emotions out there, but he's got to stay calm and be out there for his team. They still did end up winning in overtime, but story might have been a little bit different had they had that second, hey, we got to cover this guy, where it's like, oh, it's just cover Cooper Kupp, they'll be fine. They can't throw him if we put 3 people on him. But you hate to see guys make stupid decisions and get ejected, and it hurts fantasy. I know I had him in my other league, and it just hurts when you only get one catch and then he can't catch the ball because he's not in the game.
Yeah, they always catch the second guy. I know he got hit in the abdomen or something, but I just don't understand punching someone with a helmet on. That doesn't make sense to me.
It's just pass catcher,
Yeah.
You need the hands. But I mean, you bring up a good point. It's just like he gets injured early on. There's a lot of hype. I mean, he did incredible things last year. He was
fantastic last year.
He's that big body. He's got great moves. He's got great route running. He's got great hands. And you're okay. Great. Let me draft him early. He's going to be an absolute staple. Stafford loves throwing to Cooper when he was in, and now we found Puka. Let's throw to that guy. And then he gets hurt, fortunately catches the injury bug, and then comes back, did well last week, and then comes in this week. And we're like, what are we doing? Like, I understand emotions are there, but we're throwing punches. We're getting injected. I mean, it's just, I think he's in a tough spot. But like you said, kind of as the fantasy managers, I mean, I started him in a couple of leagues too, and it's just like, damn, that sucks. And then you see the thing, you see the clip, and you're like, did he throw a punch? I don't know if we can justify that. But it's just, it sucks. So hopefully this week he can get going and go back to his usual route running, slants, and just catching everything over the middle. So
yeah, I'm hoping because getting ejected only had 2.1 points the week before against a good Minnesota team. Doubled his projected with 18.1. So I was like, oh yeah, he's going back in the lineup. It's Puka. He's going to catch the ball, and took the L on that one.
Yeah, I started him as well in the league I have him in, and I definitely lost that week. So, but the Rams did not lose, which is big for them.
Big.
And it's also big for Puka because if the Rams lost that game, there'd probably be a lot more narrative about Puka letting the team down and all that stuff. But they did pull out the win, so good for the Rams. But we are officially a little over midway through the year. We are going to do a mid-year quarterback tier list. Keep an eye on the YouTube video for that. Probably going to record that sometime this week. Hopefully we'll get it up by the weekend. But we did want to talk about, some mid-year league trends we've noticed. Now, one I noticed, I'm not really sure if we've had this much quarterback benching in the past. I know we've had quarterbacks get hurt, especially last year. But quarterbacks just being benched and being healthy, it's been happening quite a bit in the league this year. So I just wanted to touch on a few of these. The best of these has been Fields being benched for Russell Wilson. Fish again. I was wrong. They are much more productive with Russell Wilson. Make sure you clip that and set it as your ringtone or something. You won't get me to say that very much, but you also have Bryce Young being benched for Andy Dalton. Seems like Andy Dalton has now been benched for Bryce Young. I think that really just sheds some light on Carolina and their entire.
Well, wasn't the first week because he got in a car accident and injured his finger?
Yeah,
I don't even think he got hurt. I think he just got in a car accident.
Well, they had precautionary. They played Bryce just in case. But it just seems like they're just playing checkers at this point. Just okay, you're gonna go ahead and get benched, and they're just drawing names out of a hat, saying, "Okay, well, hey, you get the starting job today." So that whole team should just be in college essentially.
Yeah, they're playing checkers while the rest of the league's playing 4D chess. We also have Will Levis being benched for Mason Rudolph. I kind of think this is just because the Titans might be tanking. Kind of seems like that. I think Will Levis is probably still their quarterback of the future. Brissett, I know he got hurt, but he was quietly sat for Drake May. Drake May is balling out for New England there, so seems to be the reason why he's still the starter. Minshew did get benched for Aiden O'Connell. He's now the starting quarterback again. Aiden O'Connell got hurt. Derek Carr got hurt as well, and we've seen Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener both taking snaps, neither of them playing well. I mean, do you guys remember the first 2 weeks of the season were like, oh man, the Saints?
Yeah,
was it 97 points scored in the first 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And they've just been atrocious since.
I'll tell you what, Noah was riding his high horse on that first 2 weeks.
He
I mean,
was,
it's
and
been pretty quiet since. I tell you what.
Been very
he's in
quiet.
shambles right now. And then lastly, we have Anthony Richardson being benched for Joe Flacco. Now, with Joe Flacco's performance this past week, there's been a lot of talking heads in the sports world saying maybe they gave up on Anthony Richardson too quick. There was a lot of talk about him tapping his helmet, being asked to come out of the game. I don't really know like how to read that, just because Anthony Richardson is not your conventional quarterback. He does a lot more running. It takes a lot more hits than the normal quarterback does. I know Pat McAfee came out saying if you're a franchise QB, you cannot ask yourself to come out of the game. And I do understand that, but like, situations are situational. You got to look at them in a microscope. And, if they've told Anthony, like, hey, if you're hurt or you're not feeling like you're performing or you just need a breather, we have Joe Flacco here. We can put him in. So I don't know if that's been a talk in the Colts locker room. I don't know really. Like, it seems like they've moved on from Anthony at this point. Do you guys agree with that?
I don't know. Zoltask, you can go ahead and take her on. I'll talk after.
Oh no, go ahead, Fish.
I don't think necessarily they're giving up on Richardson. Now, I did read something that they have received a lot of inquiries for Richardson. The potential's there, right? He's like a Cam Newton, a faster Cam Newton, really. Big body, really great on the ground, and not the greatest thrower that we've talked about, but we could build to that. The whole I'm tired thing, I could see it both ways, right? I could see it as, yeah, he's given up, whatever it may be. As a franchise quarterback, you should be in shape, doing this, doing that. At the same time, they could have just ran it with Jonathan Taylor and given him that breather. I don't think that the Colts have given up. I think that team, offensively and defensively, really are relatively young, so they don't have many years. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is getting to that edge of his prime. Pittman, has been decent this year. They got Downs there, the other receiver. I don't think that they've given up. I think, and Zoltowski has brought this up in past podcasts as well, that it makes the most sense to start Flacco over him, right? Accuracy is not there. His confidence is in the shitter right now, and I get it. Especially, if you live in Indy and you're looking at all this, reading the tabloids and everything like that, and it's just nothing but negativity. I get it. My ego and my confidence would be crushed. But I don't think they've given up on him yet. I think even with Flacco having a bad game, I don't believe in like the Panthers, what they're doing, LA, what they're doing. Just kind of like, okay, well, we're going to play the hot hand today. Damn, Flacco played like shit. Hey, Richardson, go ahead and get back in there. And then the following week, they bench him again. You're messing with too many people's minds on that. And you're not fooling anybody, right? People are still going to have the same schemes. The opponents are still going to run the same things that they're going to run. I just don't think that they should give up on him right now, unless they get a massive haul for picks or players or whatever it may be for another team that needs a franchise. And maybe that's what Richardson needs, is to get out of that bad zone and with a fresh new team. Kind of like what Fields went, then he got benched. But when he was with Pittsburgh, it seemed like he had a different set of confidence when he played. Maybe that should be the different scenery that Richardson might be needing. I don't think that they've given up on him yet. Now, time will tell, obviously, as the season goes on. If Flacco continues to play poorly, do they try and get a Carson Wentz or a filler quarterback in free agents or whoever's out there? You might hit a Matt Ryan or see if Brady could, not take the $50 million this year and come back and play. But I don't think that they've given up on him at all.
Wentz is on the Chiefs. Do you mean this season or do you mean in the offseason?
I mean, it could be. It might be off-season worthy. It wouldn't hurt. I mean, Wentz is a veteran. I know the trade deadline. I would love to see Wentz get traded, but obviously, I think that little Patty Mahomes scare, injury scare last night, they're not going to let him go. But maybe in the offseason, I mean, he's been with Super Bowl teams. he has the knowledge, and especially if Flacco declares, oh, I'm going to go ahead and retire, they need some type of veteran who could fill in that space in case. But I don't think that they've given up on him. At least it would be the wrong thing to do to give up on such a young kid with incredible potential as a franchise quarterback. I think it would be really, really foolish. He's not a Spencer Rattler who we know is not going to be the next Tom Brady or Cam Newton.
Right.
Richardson's got good potential to be possibly the next Cam Newton. He's got the same physique, same build, same running style, but quicker. He just needs to get his accuracy in check, and then he should be fine. But I don't know. It would be foolish for the Colts to give up on such a young guy like that.
So, sorry, go ahead, Zoltowski.
Yeah, I agree with Fish on that. Like he said, not the last pod because I wasn't there, but the one before, I had said that they need to bench Richardson and put Flacco in. And, one bad game, it's still better than most of Anthony's games for passing yards. The accuracy's not there. He got hurt early last year, and then Gardner Minshew filled an issue, so he really hasn't played a full season yet in the NFL. So I think it's a good call. Let him sit behind him. Let him learn. Let him not get hurt. And I don't know. I think it's a good call on the Colts. One bad game. Don't just be like, oh, well, we're going back to Anthony. They played a tough Minnesota team that was bouncing bouncing back from a tough loss against the Rams the week before. Or no, the Rams and the Lions. So they were on a 2-game skid. They wanted to come back and win again after being undefeated. And their defense too, like Fish said, hasn't. They're young. They haven't been the strongest. They give it some time. We might see some more production out of the Colts now.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to say at the end here was the most important thing in the NFL is coaching. The second most important thing is chemistry. So all these quarterbacks moving around, you're just losing that chemistry with those receivers. You're losing that chemistry with, the quarterback center exchanges. There's more possibility for missed snaps, penalties, stuff like that. But the last thing I wanted to say was Steichen was asked if Indy plans to start Richardson again this season, and he was pretty much non-committal on the thing, which I don't know if it's just coach speak or what. But he says, I can't predict the future, but that would be great. We'll see. So it seems like Steichen doesn't really know what he wants to do with Richardson. It seems like they could be done with him. That's how I'm reading that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. I just wanted to talk about quarterback carousels in the league. It seems like there's a lot of benching going on this year. So, but Fish, what did you have for your league trend?
Yeah, so league trend wise, especially more centered around the fantasy realm. We all know, especially the three of us that played and all the guys that we're in 1,000 leagues with. We know how important when you draft the Christian McCaffrey or the Etienne, where, okay, I've got a top 10 back. If he gets hurt where I drafted him in that position, I need to get his handcuff. Handcuffs matter now this season than we have ever seen. Not only for the injury reason, but they've been also getting more playing time. It seems like everyone is trying to copy that Detroit Lions scheme of a double-headed monster. A few to kind of point out: Breece Hall with the Jets, obviously. He's currently ranked 9 fantasy-wise, but the last 4 of his last 6 weeks, he scored less than 10 points. Allen has played in his replacement when he has been injured. Allen has been cutting into his share slowly. Etienne, we all know Etienne. Most of us drafted him, depending on the league and the point scheme. First round, end of the first round, early second. Mm-hmm. He's currently ranked 40th. Tank Bigsby, when Etienne has been injured, has also taken in and stepped into that lead role, being his handcuff. He's currently ranked 31st, even with limited playing time. And we know that Etienne, he's been battling injuries, but Bigsby has been an absolute dog filling in and, again, cutting into his share time. Same thing with Zach Moss. When they signed him to the 2-year deal, everybody's like, oh, Zach Moss, he did great things with Indy. He's going to be that same back. He has had flashes in the pans, but again, he's currently ranked 36 in fantasy. He did hit the IR with a neck injury. Lo and behold, Brown steps in, gets a full workload, and absolutely pops off. Brown currently ranked 19th, and again taking that lead role going forward with the Bengals offense, who, like Nutter said, Joe has just been playing really, really well. The offense has been playing very, very well. The defense, on the other hand, is very, very bad. But a couple other common trends you kind of see: Pollard and Spears, kind of that dual-headed threat there. Connor and even Trey Benson's been getting a little bit more carries into it. I know Connor still is the dominating force back there, but Benson, we saw early in the year, didn't really touch the ball. And now, last couple of weeks, he scored this past weekend. He's starting to get a little bit more carving time. So I don't know if he's trying to fill into that role that Connor had eventually when Connor leaves, retires, whatever it may be. But now more than ever, and I know most of these guys, if not all, have already been picked up and scoured throughout the waiver wire. But it's just something to kind of watch, where same thing with McCaffrey. You get Jordan Mason, best running back in the league. You see a lot of these handcuffs being given that opportunity to step up in a role where injury plagued that main running back. It almost reminds me of the whole Brady situation. Hey, you got dude just went down, you're in, and then he pops off. So it's just very interesting kind of seeing it. I've noticed a lot of trends, again, not only injury wise, but a lot of these handcuffs. I mean, there's a massive reason why these teams draft these guys in the second or third round. They're not just going to ride the bench or second, third string their entire careers. And it seems like they've been ramping up their, usage just a little bit more, carving into that time. And we've talked about this before. The longevity of a running back outside of, Derrick Henry, who seems like he could play till he's 58. The shelf life of a running back is 6-7 years. Before we start seeing that, they hit that 27, 28 mark, and then you get the Ezekiel Elliott and you just absolutely crash into the earth. But we've been seeing a lot more usage for a lot of these young running backs. A lot of these handcuffs is what we've been labeling them, just in case for most of it, if an injury went down, the guy would fill in. But it seems like they're carving out more and more time, which is great for the longevity of the main running backs, the number ones there. And eventually, especially with the Etienne's situation, the Jags, what they got going on, Pollard early in the season, Moss, you kind of see where these guys are possibly losing the grip on their starting role. And now you got these young emerging backs, and Bigsby. Brown has been incredible this year. I was very high on him when the Bengals drafted him. I just saw a lot of practice, and he did very, very well. But even with Allen as well for the Jets, carving out some of that role with Breece Hall, especially if Breece can't get anything going, Allen's been that bruising back to really kind of help guide the offense down the field. So just something midseason that I kind of noticed. It's been very interesting. It's just we haven't seen handcuffs like this being used in the past, with such, I don't know. It's just a lot. They're being used a lot. So very, very interesting to kind of look into. So.
Yeah, if you're new to fantasy, the term handcuff basically means, like, back in the day when you had the bell cow back, you always wanted to pick their backup just because, kind of like the 49ers too, if that bell cow goes down, then the next man up is going to get all that share of the workload. But like Fish is saying here, it seems like more teams are migrating to, running back up by committees more and more every year. That bell cow back, it's more of a scarcity, I would say, in the league. So that's a good point you made there today, Fish.
Thanks, man. You're pretty nice tonight,
I'm a nice guy, what can I say?
Really nice to Fish. This is weird.
It's just weird when I'm right, and I hate to be right,
We all hate when you're right as well.
Yeah, because you'll live on this for, 6 months at least?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're never going to hear the end of it.
But Zoltowski, I read through your league trend. You were also right. Why don't you talk about it?
I am sometimes right. So my trend is seeing, a couple teams we counted out at the beginning of the year. You look at Washington. They're 7-2 right now. They're playing extremely well. Dynamic Daniels, that's my name for him, has just been a superstar rookie quarterback that I'm pretty sure the Bears are like, oh, maybe we picked the wrong guy. maybe we should have went with him over Caleb. Even you look at the Minnesota Vikings, also 7-2 or 6-2, maybe one of the two, but only 2 losses. I know they're like, oh well, they got rid of Kirk. Hey, they're not going to do much. Maybe JJ comes in and has a good rookie year. He gets hurt. We're like, oh, it's Sam Darnold. What's he going to do? He's been also playing phenomenal. And then we have our teams, San Francisco. You look at them at the beginning of the year, after the year that they had, made it to the Super Bowl, lost to the Patty Mahomes boys. But they're like, hey, everyone's back. We're gonna make another run at it. They were looking strong, and then the injury bug hit that team like a freight train. CMC goes down. Ayuk's out for the season. Debo's been on and off. Jordan Mason's been hurt because I don't think they have anyone else that can run the ball, so he's been taking all of the workload. They've just been struggling. The Rams, another team that always looks and plays well, made it to the playoffs last year. They lose their top 2 receivers, and they have Kyren Williams. And I mean, I picked up Matt Stafford in fantasy early in the year in my other league, and I regretted it because he had 0 production because he had no one to throw the ball to. They're starting to turn around a little bit. I think there's talks of McCaffrey coming back here soon. But just really the trend of, hey, there's a couple teams we counted out that are doing way better than we thought, and we've had those teams that we had up top, and they're kind of near the bottom. So, I doubt San Francisco makes the playoffs. They're 4-4. Washington, I think they might. I'm sorry to say this, Fish. They might win that division.
They got a very good likelihood. They haven't hit the bye week just yet, but that team is playing hot. But don't count the Eagles out. I think we could count possibly Dallas being out with what they got going on. I mean, do they even play Micah Parsons this week against the Eagles? To me, it just doesn't make any sense.
No,
but
I think they tank.
Yeah. They got a really good opportunity to take it. They're driving right now. We're a few rows back. So
yeah, I mean it'll be because you guys have not played them at all.
No, not yet.
No, so you still got 2 games against them, and
those are going to be some fun games to watch.
Those are going to be some good games to watch. Yes, but and the Steelers too. Honestly, we talked about the 2 quarterback system. Who's going to take the starting role? Kind of had them, I think, maybe 500, like they always are, squeak into the playoffs, and they're looking strong too. And I hate to say that because I hate the Pittsburgh teams.
You and me both. But you got to recognize greatness. And speaking of greatness, I mean, Washington, have you ever seen a team just completely revitalize themselves in such a short amount of time? They really hit it out of the park with Daniels. I mean, they legit could be Super Bowl contenders this year.
Yeah, no, it has been an insane run and season to watch, and I want to keep watching it because their games have been fun. I mean, even their losses, they only lost to the Ravens by a touchdown, and I think the Ravens were heavily favored in that game. And their other loss was to, sorry, I'll pull it up real quick. Commanders.
I think the Ravens were favored by a touchdown because it was in Baltimore, if I remember right.
Yeah. And their other loss was to the Dolphins. Or no, that's preseason, sorry. It was to the Buccaneers, first game of the season. So, and that was when the Buccaneers were, completely healthy. And first week's always a toss-up with who's going to win what game because no one plays in preseason anymore. So they've got to find their rhythm.
First weeks are tough for rookie quarterbacks as well. So,
but I mean, Daniels really took that first week and he was like, you know what? All right, here's what I'm doing wrong. Here's what I need to do better. And I feel like he's worked with his coaches and his teammates, and I mean, they have found a great rhythm.
Yeah. Have we talked about that? They just got Marshawn Lattimore. Have we brought that up yet?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, cool. So the offense is hot. The team is hot. They're riding with the coach. I thought Sam Howell did really, really well with them, but they obviously saw something different than I did. And then they drafted, Daniels, and he, like Zoltowski said, I mean, he's been making those smart, decisive passes. One of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league right now. is a dual threat, not only through the air but on the ground as well. I mean, great. And they get Marshawn. That's exactly what they needed. So no, I think you're right. I mean, it's a little too early to tell. Obviously, they're riding that high, but I mean, geez, they're 7-2. They've played some really good teams. They've blown a lot of teams out of the water. Everything's clicking. I mean, shit. When we do that tier list, we might have to redo them and see they might be up there with contenders early
Yeah.
on.
That tier list is going to be fun for sure. I'm excited.
Absolutely.
Excited to do that. So, like we said, keep your eyes peeled for the YouTube this week. We'll get that out there for you. But let's get into our Week 10 preview. I'm going to go first here. I'm going to go Cincinnati at Baltimore. This is a Thursday night game this week. You know, the early line on this game is Baltimore is 6.5-point favorites at home. The over-under is the highest of this week. It is at 52.5 points. Rightfully so, because the last time in Week 5 when these two teams met, the final score was 41-38 that finished in overtime. Looking at the season so far, the Bengals are 4-5, but they're 4-2 in their last 6 games. I already talked about Joe Burrow. He's kind of turning it on. They're playing well. Hopefully they get T. Higgins back this week coming up. I believe that's kind of why they held him out last week, just because they knew they had a short week coming for Week 10. So it's going to be a really good game. Hopefully we have a really, really good Thursday night game again. I know the last couple have kind of been snooze fest, but this one should be good.
I'm hammering the over, and I'm taking Cincinnati with the way Joe Burrow's been playing lately.
Yeah, I'm probably going to take the over. I don't know, man. 6.5 that's a lot of points, but Baltimore's just so good.
Yeah, but you got a stat here. They're also dead last in passing yards allowed per game.
Yeah, I was going to get into that, but
yeah.
What's stopping Henry? So
yeah, Lamar Jackson historically against the Bengals is 7-2. He just wins when he plays Ohio football teams. I think he's also like 7-2 when he plays the Browns. So he's got a really good record playing teams of Ohio. Let's get more into the team stats. Cincinnati's yards per game are 17th at 331 yards per game. They score about 26 points a game, which is 7th in the league. Their defense allows 343 yards a game. They're 19th. And then they are also allowing 25 points per game. Baltimore Ravens are number 1 in yards per game at 446. They are second in points per game at 31.4. Their defense is allowing 356.6 yards per game. Most of that is passing yards. And then they are allowing 24.3 points per game at 23rd. So what I'm saying, reading all this to you, is expect for a lot of offense. Should be a good game. Probably going to hammer the over on this. It's going to be an exciting game to bet on, so I'm pretty excited for that. Lastly, the only thing I'm going to talk about, this game had almost 1,000 yards in the last matchup in Week 5, and again, like I said, it was won by a walk-off field goal by Justin Tucker. So, yeah, that's the game I'm excited for this week.
Does not miss.
And Fish, you also have a rivalry game this week. Why don't you talk about it, buddy?
Rivalries. Eagles at Dallas at 425. Eagles have been riding that hot hand. Saw them in Cincinnati last couple weeks. It just seems like the team is they're listening to the fan base. We're running it with Barkley. Barkley's doing insane things. We know Brown's going to do incredible things. Smith, everybody's back healthy, which is great, except for Dallas Goedert. But even with him not in the lineup, Calcaterra's been doing great in that fill-in role. But the most important thing, I think, is the defense. They something has clicked. I don't know what it is. Sirianni should probably shave his head again. Everything outside of the last quarter against the Jags, everything seems to be going very, very well. I have never seen a team kind of, usually have edges and linebackers kind of, blitz or do whatever. Nakobe Dean had that game-saving interception. He was 40 yards back. I've seen Nolan Smith, push back into coverage as well. So they're doing a lot of crazy things, but we've got a lot of great Georgia athletes in there as well that can do those things, which is great. So some of the stats wise, obviously the Cowgirls are are in turmoil, and we love it. So fingers crossed for an absolute blowout at home. Maybe Tim the Tatman's going to be there. I don't know. Maybe all his fans. I mean, they already saw it today. They've already been saying "Go Birds" and stuff, which is great. So, Eagles wise, total offense again, they have been clicking very, very well the last few weeks, especially. Hurts has been playing out of his mind. Saquon's doing Saquon things. Total offense, they've gotten 377 yards. That's ranked sixth. Rushes per game, and again, this is based off of Hurts and mostly Barkley. Gainwell not really contributing at all. Will Shipley should be in the second spot, but that's just me. Rushes per game, averaging about 174, 175 yards. It's currently ranked second, which is absolutely insane. And then passing offense, we already know Hurts isn't throwing for 400 yards a game. It's okay because we got the legs of Barkley and his own legs as well. So passing offense currently ranked 20th. At 202 yards per game. Now, defensively, something that I was very, very shocked by, and I read that most of the defensive categories and stats were all ranked 10 or less. So total defense, we're only giving up 290 yards per game, which is currently ranked third, which is absolutely insane. Pass defense, currently ranked 7, only giving up 189 passing yards, which is great. Rushing D, we definitely believe in the Georgia Bulldogs and Jalen Carter and Davis really plugging up that hole there. And Nakobe Dean's really stepped into his forum there as well with a lot of blitzing. Vic Fangio has been doing incredibly well. And it seems like he's got a fuller grasp on the defense and is doing very, very well. I know it's with Miami and that defense was kind of a little shaky, but he's got a lot of young talent, a lot of potential here. Rushing D, we've held teams to 101 yards, which is currently ranked 5th. Scoring D, we're ranked 9th, only giving up really 19.4 points a game, which is fantastic. And then red zone defense, although it does seem like we just let people walk in sometimes, we're currently ranked 6th, only giving up 45% of red zone opportunities there. On the other side, Dallas. Now, these are the stats that I absolutely love to read off. Total offense, they average about 336 yards, currently ranked 14th, which is as expected, especially with Dak and CD somewhat clicking, somewhat not clicking. Again, Dowdle doing great things there. They've had a lot of young guys step up. Tolbert's been doing well there. Rushing per game, obviously, nobody is surprised by this stat. Rushing per game, they're averaging 82 yards, which is currently ranked 31st. Passing offense,
lower.
I mean, I was a little surprised when I saw 82, and I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. So we know when Zeke played, they tried to force feed him. It just didn't work. Dalvin Cook got his share. Again, not working. Passing offense. Now, this doesn't surprise me. They're currently ranked second at averaging 254 yards a game. Again, they've been playing behind most of this year. So it makes sense game-wise, scheme-wise, to then just go ahead and throw it. Again, Dak has not been the best so far this year. Jerry Jones feels like he's pouring a lot of money on that guy. Offensive-wise, not the greatest. Defensively and defense, I know last year and last few years really, they've taken a lot of pride in their defense. That defense has been angry and they hit hard. It almost reminds me of a defense from like the early 90s, early 2000s. It's an aggressive defense. We've seen it over the years. I mean, sometimes people, if we're playing, fantasy lineups wise and people are picking up defenses, that defense was going earlier than some of the second string, third string receivers with just how good they were. They always produced points. They always had interceptions, especially when Trayvon Diggs did his thing with 1,000 interceptions in a year. Defensively this year, though, not the same. Total defense ranked currently 27th, giving up 364 yards. Passing defense ranked 18th. So the cornerbacks are still doing their thing. They only given up 217 passing yards. Rushing D-wise, though, almost ranked dead last, which is absolutely lovely. So, hey, if you got Saquon on your team, start him and then start him again because he should pop off, knock on wood. Ranked.
Oh, he's already in the lineup.
I mean, I duplicate him and start him again because he might pop off for 1,000 points, knock on wood. So, rushing D, they're currently ranked 30th, giving up an average of 147, 148 yards on the ground. Now, again, a lot of dual quarterbacks out there too, which doesn't help. Those stats might be a little inflated, but they are giving up a shit ton of rushing yards. Scoring D ranked 31st as well. They are also averaging 28 points allowed, unheard of. I know Chad Temple out there. He's a big Dallas Cowboys guy. I talk to him every once in a while. But he has been dead silent this year, which is fantastic. So, and then Red Zone D, this is something that kind of it was like, oh wow, this is actually alarming if I was a Dallas fan. Red Zone D ranked dead last at 32. They've given up 77% of red zone opportunities, which for anyone that's not a big football or fantasy person, most of the time when people get within or the teams get within the 20, that's considered the red zone. They've given up. That team has walked away with some type of points 77% of the time. So
It's
again,
crazy.
It plays into offensive wise why they continue to pass more, just because they've been down early and so often. So we already talked about this earlier. A couple little key things to watch. I know CD hurt his shoulder. We saw him Wednesday last week. Tough guy, really tried to play through it. We know that he might be week to week. Again, they're playing the Eagles with a stout defense. Do they run the risk of starting him? We know that Dak's out on the IR, so he'll be out for 4 weeks. Cooper Rush is in. He's going to try and force feed CD if possible. Eagles are not a soft hitting team, by the way. And especially with Quinion Mitchell back there locking people up. Looks like a young Marshawn. It could be a bad thing for Dallas. And then, of course, Michael Parsons is supposed to come back this week, but off his injury, he's been very, very talkative on his podcast. But again, playing the Eagles, I know it's at home. I know it's a pride thing. It's a big rivalry. The Eagles fans are going to be over there, going to be talking all kinds of shit. Do you risk getting CD hurt further? Do you risk Parsons getting hurt, especially coming up with his contract year? So just a lot of things to kind of look into as this game progresses. Again, they play Sunday at Dallas, 4:25. So be aware if you have any of these players for a late notification through Sleeper or Fantasy, just to kind of, hey, CD's not playing because they might want to accept defeat, take the L, and kind of go into the following week just a little bit more healthy. So that's my game of the week. I love it. It's a big, massive rivalry. So I'm going to be glued to the TV and probably playing some COD. But that's my game of the week.
And I did just want to say the Eagles are 7-point favorites on the road, which is huge.
We love that.
And the over-under for that game is 41.5. I assume that is just because of Cooper Rush starting instead of Dak. So not sure there's going to be a lot of scoring going on for the Cowboys. It's probably mostly going to be the Eagles putting up points. But yeah, great pick, Fish. Going to be a great game to watch.
I want the Eagles to score as many points as the Lions did on the Cowboys, and I want to watch Saquon hurdle over like 3 more people.
Backwards.
So maybe he'll do a front flip over one of them.
I mean, I would absolutely love that. It really just stems. I know Sirianni tries to outsmart a lot of people, and we left, 8-9 points up on the board last week against the Jags, and they almost came back. So again, if Sirianni, if you're listening, take the points. Let's not try and be cute with shit. Just take the points. That game should not have been that close. So hopefully our egos don't get too ahead of us, and then we give Dallas that opportunity to kind of climb back. They have made a couple noticeable late fourth quarter drives and comebacks to almost beat the Ravens and a couple other teams. So at any moment, they could really turn it up, turn it on, and kind of lead that offense. And honestly, that would be, the confidence for the Eagles would be deflating if they're winning and Dallas comes back and beats them. That would, Sirianni's already on the hot seat. He's gotten away with a couple things so far because we are winning. But if we do some dumb shit like that and try and outsmart everybody, be the smartest guy in the room when clearly we don't need to be, it could be a big, big problem. It's just one of those games that we just cannot lose to Dallas. It's just, we can't. So.
You're not going to lose to Dallas.
Don't bet that game. You're an absolute jinx. Don't bet that game.
I've been kind of hot lately. I might bet it.
No, don't bet it. Don't bet it. Bet against the Bengals and the Browns, the shit people. That's fine. Bet against them. Don't touch this game.
I'll let you know.
And don't touch my game either.
Stay away, because if somebody gets hurt or somebody underperforms whenever you bet for them. Don't do it.
All Nutter's fault.
Absolutely.
We'll see what happens. Zoltowski.
Yes, sir. Sunday Night Football, Detroit at Houston, 8:20 p.m.
Good matchup.
Love a good Sunday night game. Last time these two teams met was 2020, and Houston won 41-25. So I expect Dan Campbell to use that as some sort of motivation for the team to just, get them all riled up. I know Houston's hurt. Nico and Diggs are both out. They've been relying on just really Tank Dell, but then their run game with Joe Mixon and CJ using his legs to make plays. Defensively, Houston's ranked second with total yards per game allowed at 281.67. And then on the flip side of that, the offense for the Lions is averaging 369.6 yards per game. So hopefully, we can take advantage of how well that the Lions offense has been playing with that dual-headed monster that they have with Montgomery and Gibbs. And I know we won't have JMO because he got suspended. This is his
second game.
So yeah, he'll be back the week after. Yeah, he wasn't there for the Packers game. That's right. But he'll be back next week. But even without him, they still played well against the Packers. The only thing that really makes me nervous as a Lions fan is our pass yards per game allowed and our yards per game allowed. And, we're allowing 200. They're allowing 250.75 pass yards and 357.13 yards per game as a whole, which is ranked 20th and 22nd respectively. But I mean, that offense ranked number one at 32.3 points per game.
Pretty good. Not surprised.
Pretty good. I think the biggest things if Houston's going to win this game, they're going to have to shut down that run game and put some pressure on Goff, because which they can, they have the fourth most sacks at 29. But I mean, that Lions O-line is just stout. But you give Jared Goff time, and he's going to make good decisions, make good throws. They always play well on primetime. I think this is the second primetime game this year for them. Yep, because week one was against the Rams, and they won that game in overtime. And then for the Lions, they got to keep that run game going, obviously, and keep CJ contained, because if he gets loose, he gets tricky. He gets pretty good out there. But really just focus on locking up Tank Dell. And I'm excited to see Z join the Lions. I think that'll help with containing CJ and getting some more pressure on him, because he's only in his second year in the NFL. So he's still, he's been playing fantastic still, being so young. But, you get some pressure on him. I really wish Hutch was there, because I think that'd be an easy victory. I know Detroit is favorited to win that game on the road. I think they are they're 3.5 point favorites.
And then the over-under is 49.5.
Yeah. Probably smashing that over.
Even with Diggs and Nico out?
Yeah. Even with Diggs and Nico out.
It'll be interesting. It's an interesting line, for sure. But
I think
you guys are not going to have any trouble with Houston at all.
No,
really underperforming in the last couple of weeks.
Well, and you're missing. Who else do they have at receiver? I know Fish mentioned John Mechie at the very beginning of the podcast as a sleeper, but I think he. I mean, they're just going to try and throw the ball to Tank Dell, because he's quick. He gets open. He's got good hands. But if you only got one guy to throw to, and Joe Mixon can only run the ball so many times, I mean, I'm just hoping for an 8-1 Lions team, man. It's a weird time to be a Lions fan, but also a great time to be a Lions fan. Hop on the bandwagon. You're more than welcome.
I mean, the Lions are probably going to be the team I root for when postseason comes around, just because
wild to me.
The only other fan base that could share in the Cleveland misery is Detroit. So
Yeah, exactly. Now, here's the thing. We were waiting in line last week for a ride. I can't remember which one. But I looked at Liz and I told her, I said, I hope you know that if the Lions make the Super Bowl this year, I'm selling a kidney or whatever it takes to go.
It's going to cost more than
She
that.
just, I know, but dude, even, you know what, even if they make it and win, I'll go to Detroit for the parade. You bet your ass I'm calling off work or I'm taking vacation. I'll be there.
I would as well. That's
I'd
smart.
be there, man. I mean, this is, I've seen talks all over the league about it, you know, like, oh my, it's, you know, people are saying, is this really Detroit? You know, is this Detroit team serious? And I mean, you look at the game that they lost against Tampa Bay in week 2 or 3, maybe. I think it was week 2. It was still a good game, still a close game. And then they just kind of picked it up from there, and they're just running with it. And we've already had the bye, so if we can just keep this train rolling.
Yeah, it looks like it was week 2. You guys lost by 4 points. So, pretty good team you guys got there. Pretty good squad.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but that is it for our week 10 preview. Let's get into our draft. And I'm going to randomize the draft order here. Now, these are dream travel destinations, meaning these should be places that you haven't been before. And we're looking for a city in a country or a city in a state. So, randomizer here. All right, first we have me, second Zoltowski, third is Fish.
Bullshit. It's actually bullshit.
All right, so let's go dream travel destination. So my first pick, the 1-1, I would love to go to Tokyo, Japan. I'm going to pick Tokyo just because, you know, I've seen a lot of people go there, a lot of streamers go there. I really like to watch streamers live stream in Japan. Ludwig has gone there a lot. Hassan Piker has gone there a lot, and it always just looks like so much fun. It's like a whole different world. It's a tech lover's paradise. They really embrace the anime culture over there. They have a giant Gundam, I think, still up, so that's pretty cool. Tokyo, Japan, it's a big mix between Western and Eastern cultures as well, so I just think it would be a really cool place to see.
I hate you for stealing my pick.
I mean, honestly, I could see all three of us picking it for the first round pick because it was on my list as well.
So that's the reason why I did cities and countries, Zoltowski, because I knew you would want to pick a Japan as well. But, you know, I just wanted Tokyo too. So,
yeah, that's fine. I have a backup.
And we can go anime,
and Tokyo Disneyland, man. Honestly,
like, Tokyo Disney's there as well.
Wild stuff there.
They also have a Nintendo theme park there too.
Yep,
I don't know if that's in Tokyo, but
I think it is. But the Orlando one opens in May of next year, so it's fine.
You know what's really cool as well? They have a freaking bullet train, so we can go anywhere we want.
It's a great movie, by the way.
Fantastic movie. Great movie. Fantastic movie. But I'm going to go with my first round pick. And I'm going to go with Rome as my first round pick.
That's good.
Yeah, that's Rome, Italy, right?
Yes, Rome, Italy.
Damn, I was hoping it'd be like Rome, Indiana or something.
No, with the Colosseum, the Pantheon. No, Pantheon might be. It's fine. All that stuff, all the ancient history that's there. You always hear this. Yeah, it's fine. Rome wasn't built in a day. I don't know, just the culture that's there, the history. Because a lot of our modern civilization comes from Rome. So really like to see that. Really think it'd be cool.
It's definitely on my list. It's a great pick.
Yeah.
Fishy boy.
Yes, so obviously you guys have taken a few on my list of massive list, by the way. Dream destinations that I'd love to go to. And the family and I have been talking about this for so many years, right? We're Italian, we're Spanish. It'd be nice to go back to, where my grandfather and his family kind of grew up and lived in Italy. So I'm going to go Abruzzo, Italy. That's where that's where we're from. Obviously, the Italian foods, the scenery, the wine. It's been on a bucket list for ourselves for God, what 6, 10 years now. We've talked about it, but schedules haven't matched up with C being in school or me and Pop's traveling all the time. So hopefully we can go soon. Obviously, it'll be not just the four of us. Hopefully it'll be six to go up there. I know Andy's family's kind of talked about doing a possible Italy trip too with them. So obviously I'm going to try and weasel my way in, but Abruzzo, Italy. It's just I want to see where we came from, where we grew up, or not we, but where the family has grown up. So just kind of touching the roots there, which would be it's a number one destination for me and some of the crew here. So
Man, Zoltowski, he said 6. I thought we were getting a free trip to Italy.
yeah, no way.
No. We'll be on the same plane, and I'll come with you, and then we can go to Rome. But I'll pay for all my stuff. Don't worry.
Honestly,
Also,
feel like I'm only
did
in
I
there.
spell that right in the Dockfish?
I'll take a look here in a minute.
Okay. You said
I'll
Abruzzo, right?
Abruzzo, yeah. I'll fix it if it's not.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime for you, man. Oh, wait, I get a whip around.
Yeah, you get the whip around, dude.
Yeah,
You do the
dude.
turn.
So the turn again, gonna go with the a little bit of the roots there. I know Italy is more dad's side. Obviously, mom's got a little bit of Italian on her side as well, but we're mostly Spanish on mom's side. So Barcelona, Spain.
I already had it written down.
Yep, you already know.
Wild.
Barcelona, obviously, the soccer team there, the football team for most people that enjoy European soccer. The roots. Andy just got back from. She went to Real Madrid a little while ago. She sent me photos. I mean, the scenery there and the buildings. It's just absolutely incredible. She hated Real Madrid. I mean, it totally makes sense because it's horrible team, horrible establishment. But the atmosphere alone, just in Barcelona, again, kind of touching back to the roots to kind of see where mom's side of the family, kind of where they were born and raised, where her name's her main name came from, and the history behind that, much like dad's side of the family. So it's a place in my heart where when we eventually go to Italy to then hit up Barcelona as well. So that's got to be my 1-2. A little sentimental for us, but it's a go-to. So
Those are two great picks obviously I've only seen pictures, but Barcelona is beautiful looking. So
they got the messy shrine. I mean, the history alone. Oh God, yeah. One day.
Is that where they run from the bulls?
No. I had to double check. I don't think so.
I believe that's Madrid.
I wasn't sure, but I like the picks, Fish. I like the family picks, and
You.
that's Pamplona
Pamplona.
Yeah.
is the big one.
I mean, we should definitely do that for draft picks next year, right? Everybody goes
Dude.
Spain. Last person alive gets first pick, right? Thoughts?
I'll just take last.
Well, here's the thing: is we could just use our size to bully the other ones.
That's wild that you think you're going to take on a bull. I could take on an ostrich, but you're not taking on a bull.
No. I'm talking about bullying you guys because we'll all start together. I'll just grab Nova and Mason.
Oh, what are you talking? Mason's not going to be there.
Well, you're right. Okay, so I'll grab Nova and Bosom. And boom, there's 2 out right there.
Bosom has already stepped on a pebble and has fractured his entire left side of the body. So he is absolutely on the ground already.
You're not getting last. It's fine.
And really, Nova's got all the military stuff. I mean, that guy is a walking tissue paper at this point, too. So.
I didn't hear the ostrich coming in there, by the way.
I can do it.
We'll talk about that later. But I am actually going to follow Fish with a family pick. So my grandmother and her side all immigrated from Mexico. So I would like to visit the city where they grew up, which is Monterrey, Mexico, just to see, one, the Mexican culture. You butchered it, but I'll fix it.
It's man, just
it's fine.
let it
You
go.
tried. I appreciate it. but see all that culture, see where my family came from, and all that fun stuff. And Mexico's always cool. So see the mountains, stay away from the cartels, and maybe while I'm down there, hit up some other cities that might be on a list later.
Yeah, definitely stay away from the cartels.
So, but that's my second pick. I fixed it, by the way.
I feel bad because I don't really know where my lineage is from. I know I'm part German and part British, but I don't know specifically where those are. So I didn't really gear my list towards that. But that's cool. You guys have those locations you want to visit just to see the history of your families. So, my second pick is going to be London, England. And I just basically want to go here because I want to go see Big Ben. I want to do all the touristy shit in London. I want to go to a soccer game. I don't care if it's, the team that's about to be relegated or the secondary league over there. I don't care. I just want to go experience that once.
So proud that you knew the term relegation.
And then also want to go to an English pub. A real English pub. I think it'd be a lot of fun. But
but are you going to get a Guinness?
I mean, isn't that Irish?
They do it over there too.
I don't know. I'll get whatever the locals get. As long as it's not warm. I hear their beer's warm over there. I'm out on that. But my third pick, and this may be... No, I'm going to go with Venice, Italy.
Dude, quit stealing my stuff. We're going to
Venice,
talk
Italy
when I get back.
just seems so unique. Really beautiful. All the water roadways, pretty cool. So that's one place I'd really like to visit. Also Italian food. I mean, come on. Real Italian food. Not that bullshit Americanized Italian food. So, Zoltowski, what is your third pick, my friend?
Well, you just took two from me.
Good.
So
means I have a good draft.
Yeah, it's a great draft. But so I'll pivot, and I'm gonna go Cairo, Egypt. I would like to go there to see, the Sphinx, the pyramids, which it's actually wild. You see all the shots of the pyramids. It's it's the desert in the back. It's in the desert when really it's across the street from Pizza Hut and Burger King and all that stuff. It's literally right outside the city. I think that honestly, that would be funny, but also cool to see, those monuments, how just really ponder to see it in person. How did they build these way back in the day?
Aliens.
What did they use? So.
Spaceships.
Yeah. Mars attacks aliens just building all that shit is crazy.
Wild.
Yeah,
but that is my pick.
It's a great pick.
So it's me, and then I get a whip round too?
It's you, and then you get the whip around.
Wow, it's crazy you guys have just stolen most of my shit. So I'm glad it came with a massive list. Nutter, I'm actually going to piggyback off you. My third pick, since you said London, I'd love to go see Manchester, England, and specifically go to as many football games and matches as possible, but mostly the London Derby, Man U versus Man City. Want to be in that atmosphere. I mean, the stadiums are insanely massive. I just want to be able, kind of like what Nut said, go to an actual, true, authentic English pub, sing the songs in the stadium with the teams, yell at the players, and just be a part of that. I think that's something that, granted, the U.S. has done fairly well with trying to make football popular over here, but over there, that's their NFL, and it's just it. I see it and I watch it on Saturdays and I hear it. Usually, me and Mom got the volume up loud. It's trying to replicate us being there, but I want to be there and eventually just spend thousands and thousands of dollars and pounds to go to all these matches and see these incredible athletes and these legends play. I know we're lucky enough to see Ibrahimovic come over here and play, and Messi, and almost part of the MSN, the old Barcelona squad with Suarez, Messi, and Neymar. So Neymar, you can come on over, hang out for a little bit, but being able to just live in that atmosphere, sing the songs, drink, and have an incredible time, and just lose your mind with the sport that's absolutely loved by billions and billions and billions of people. So that's got to be mine. It's got to be Manchester, most specifically that London derby. It just hits different. It's like the Yankees, Red Sox, the Eagles, Dallas. It's very, very good. So,
Guys trip?
I'm in. You let me know.
And
I got PTO. I got to burn. So let's do it.
Yep, by the end of the year. I don't have any PTO. I just started work.
Yeah, just call off.
I just used all mine.
I'm just leave training. It'd be the best thing for me to do at this point.
And then the last pick, right? Last pick for us is 4 already.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with the countryside, Otago, New Zealand. I want to see the incredible countryside, the land, the mountains. I actually don't even want to be part of the city. I want to get a little cottage and just wake up, drink a coffee, and just be able to stare at green for miles and miles and miles, and just the incredible landscape that they have, and the incredible buildings and cottages that they have on the outskirts in the country land. I think is a beautiful, beautiful spot that I want to be able to eventually, when I travel, Europe and all that other stuff, to be able to witness personally with my own eyes. So, especially with the morning dew when you wake up, and I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful sight. So, very relaxing, very, very tempting last pick. So,
I don't know anything about Otago, New Zealand, but sounds great.
thanks,
Yeah,
man.
sounds like a fun place to visit, Fish. Always go for a good coffee.
I love good coffee. So,
Zoltowski, how about your last pick here, buddy?
Oh boy, this is honestly a tough one here. But I guess I'll save the rest for honorable mentions, but I'm going to go with Athens in Greece.
damn.
I don't know what it is about like ancient mythology that I find so interesting, but like Greek mythology to me I've always thoroughly enjoyed. And just the city there, Greek food, I love a good gyro.
Mm.
And just the city. And I've heard it's beautiful. I've seen people I'm friends with on Facebook who are Greek. They've gone and visited, and it just looks beautiful. I'd love to go see that city, see all the architecture that's there, and just have a good time.
It's a great call. I didn't even think about Greece. That's upsetting. I'm irritated now.
Sorry, Fish.
I'm so mad.
Dude, I've just been scrolling through a map as you guys have been taking my picks.
Yeah. Now I'm flustered. I made a bonehead move and picked horribly. Damn. That's a solid pick. Mythology, absolutely love it. That would be so cool to go visit.
The God of War games, fantastic.
Great games.
I've loved reading the Odyssey in high school. I won't even lie to you. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And the Iliad. And I read the Aeneid as a book that I picked, so.
I don't think I've ever read any of those.
I guarantee you've read the Odyssey.
Maybe.
Or you've seen the movie Troy.
True. I have seen Troy.
Troy's a great movie. It's a good one too.
Some say that happened exactly that way too.
I've read accounts, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, but for my last pick, I'm actually going to go with a pick within the U.S. I haven't been to a lot of places. I haven't traveled much. Usually when I go on vacations, it's to the same places, and I have never, ever been to New York, so that is going to be my last pick. I want to go see Central Park. I want to go see Times Square. I want to go have real New York pizza. Definitely just want to see the atmosphere there. So, New York is my last pick.
That's a good pick.
Should be going there for Christmas, I think.
Liz
It's
and I
an
were talking
attainable
about,
one.
Yeah, Liz and I were talking about going for a birthday, go see a show on Broadway.
I want to see Kinky Boots on Broadway so bad.
I just want to see a show on Broadway. I don't really care what it is. I heard Beetlejuice on Broadway is really good.
I did hear that too.
So
I want to go to the New York comedy clubs. Apparently they're really, really fun to go to. So yeah, that is my last pick. You guys got any honorable mentions?
I've got so many.
We could almost make this a 2-part draft.
It could, but I'm going to throw 2 out there, or 3 out there real quick. Sydney, Australia, and honestly kind of the surrounding areas, because, the Opera House, the Irwins are from Queensland. We stand Bluey in the Zoltowski household, 100%. I want to go to Hawaii, just honestly any of the islands, and then I want to make it out to Alaska at some point, maybe on a cruise or something.
Nice.
Alaska would be cool. I went to Australia for work. It's good. I mean, until you sit down and you think, okay, there's 20-foot great whites. That snake can kill me. That bug can kill me. The bats are like small humans. It's truly a terrifying thing. Like you're always kind of peeking over your shoulder. But I mean, it's a good time. It was fun. It's a long flight. Alaska for sure, though. I'd love to wear basketball shorts out there in -3-degree weather just to say I did it. So.
I can see you doing that. You know what? I would do the same thing too.
Why is it so hot over here? Yeah, absolutely.
I want to go whale.
You wear the jacket.
Whale watching would be good. I think Ireland, same thing like New Zealand. It's just the countryside is just beautiful. You go to an Irish pub. Yeah, I mean, you do the things, the touristy things. I feel like you have to, but I mean, it's just
the Blarney Stone.
It's just a good time. So
honestly, if you go to England, if you go to London, you could, because they always say like, oh yeah, it's only like a 2-hour drive from Edinburgh down to Manchester, and I'm like, dude, people drive that to work every day. Like you could do England and Ireland in
Forget
like a week.
that. I'm taking a train. I wish the U.S. had trains. Or
they do down here. Dude, the Airbnb there's a freaking Amtrak train tracks right behind it.
That's pretty cool.
This show should be. I should be able to hop on a tram and go from here to New York. Yeah, it's going to take a long time, but I'm in my own cabin. Just like Bullet Train, by the way. Great movie.
Not if we had bullet trains, dude. You get to New York in 3 hours? Going 500 miles an hour?
Yeah. Well, my family lives up by Detroit, and they told me they'll hop on the train to Chicago every now and again, and it's I think a 2-hour ride for them. And I'm like, yeah, better than the 5.5-hour drive.
Right.
That's a great draft. Fantastic.
Yeah, it
was a great draft. Some honorable mentions I had were Paris. A couple more states picks were San Francisco, the Grand Canyon, and then I also had Shanghai, China. I'd like to go to. It's the richest city in China. Just be neat to go over there and see how crazy that would be. Also, what's the really rich place in the Middle East?
Dubai.
Yeah, Dubai. That'd be really cool to see too. So
that's just a different world. I don't think I'm ready for.
Yeah. No, I have been to the Grand Canyon. Can confirm it is breathtaking. 10 out of 10 recommend.
That'd be cool to go see. So, good draft, guys.
Very good.
Zoltowski, thanks for going on vacation, inspiring this one. So,
you're welcome. I don't want to come back. I might
We're
not.
We're ready for you to come back.
Later, dude.
Oh my gosh. The thing is, just I get a house with an extra bedroom, and then now you guys have a place to stay and come visit.
True.
Tampa's like an hour. We'll go to a Bucks game.
I'm out. No, I'm just kidding. I'd go to a Bucks game.
There's the Lightning. Go to Disney World. Go to Orlando. Won't be able to ride anything in Orlando. Or at Universal, I mean. SeaWorld, went there today. Couldn't ride anything. Too tall.
I know SeaWorld had rides.
They have 9.
I thought it just had prisons for animals. All right, that's the show. We appreciate you guys for listening. As always, tell your friends about us. And always say GG and thanks for being a gent. We'll see you guys later.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.